Welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, where all things football are injected right to your veins, with your hosts, Matt Donnelly, Calvin Shoemake, and Jeff Mueller.
What is up? Welcome to a season finale episode of the Team Spotlight series for the Dynasty Vipers. I'm your host at Calvin and Hobby, and I'm joined by an awesome, fun panel today. Can't wait to get into this. This is a really, honestly, the more I dug into the Jacksonville Jaguars, the more excited I got about what the future could hold for them. I know that sounds strange coming off a 1-15 year, but there's a lot of really good things going on in Jacksonville, and not just the fact that the good place had a really cool character who was a Jaguars fan. Not the only thing that this team has going for it. As we'll talk about every single one of these for the last time, I'll set up our show. We get to February, March. Everybody wants to talk about the rookies, and we should know everything there is to know about these rookies, but we also need to understand the teams that they're going to find themselves in. There's free agency. There's coaching changes. There's a pretty big coaching change here for this team that we definitely have to talk about. And so to do that, I invite some really smart football people who happen to also be really passionate fans about that team. So starting here to my left, obviously a very passionate guy. Name's Jesse. I'm not sure. We got a couple Jessies here. I'm not sure. We'll call you Jesse. Maybe the other one JD, I think is what we decided. So, but Jack's commish. I mean, obviously, you're the guy we want to talk to find out what kind of moves we're going to make, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing this for a little while with the Jaguars here. Season ticket holder for quite some time, fan for life kind of thing here. So I think he kind of found the right guy for the job.
Where can we find you, and what are you working on over the off season?
Yeah, so right now I'm working with Hammercast Network over at hammercast.com. That's where you're going to find all kinds of stuff. I mean, right now they're doing every single sport there is. Currently, I'm the head of the DFS fantasy football side. So for me, I'm kind of taking a back seat right now. But I will be having some off-season content coming up. So I'm kind of glad that I got on the show now to kind of get it jump-started here. So I'm glad to be on the show with you guys.
So other Jesse or JD, kicking it down to you. Where can we find you? And what are you working on over this offseason?
Yeah, so I do my own podcast, Big Game Sports Podcast. I'm at BGF Sports on Twitter. Whatever, you check me out there. I'm doing work with The Lateral, with Herms. We're going to start doing live shows and stuff like that. It's going to be a really good time. So I'm just hitting the podcast, doing the stuff. Hopefully, this is the best time to be a Jags fan in the offseason because it's where we make most of our moves. So I'm excited to talk about it.
I love Hearns. I've been on the podcast with him, and I'm actually supposed to go on Sunday if things work out timing wise. So love Hearns, love what he's doing over there. Love the lateral.
Yeah,
great. And the man with the best hat we've had on the show by far, no doubt. FF Man Bun, Gabe. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Where can we find you? And you seen any open bars around here recently?
That was definitely part of the contract for you inviting me onto the show. I said, look, there's just one thing that needs to happen because I come from the open bar. I don't know. I feel like I'm faking the brand tonight with this, but I do have these, so I feel like it's a decent little thing. Shout out to my wife. I got this one for her, and I just kind of forced her into being a Jaguars fan, which, yeah. And now we have a kid, so now I'm like, I don't know if that's fair. Is that fair? Can you just
is that child abuse to bring them up?
Yeah, I don't know. I already felt bad enough to do it for her. So and she doesn't even care. She's just like, I just like the ear, But yeah, we're on the open bar Tuesdays, 9:30 Eastern ish. With the homie J Mike, and I'm ready to kick it and talk Jaguars stuff. I mean, J Mike and I joke about being Jaguars fans because I think it's kind of a joke in itself for most people that if you know,
Yeah. We've all been we've been there. We've been living it.
Yeah. So it's certainly easier in the last 10, 15 years to focus on fantasy versus the Jaguars because you don't have to worry much about the fandom. But we're still here to talk about it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll kick it right back over to you actually while we talk about fanhood, because you mentioned that. And this is a really interesting team because just much like the Carolina Panthers, it's not like they've got this 70-year history that we can kind of, call back on. This is the Tony Baselli, Mark Brunell era started and kicked things off. I mean, do you go back that far as a fan?
I actually do. And I'm kind of like one of the biggest fakes as far as like bandwagoning, because that's where I started. I mean, I was only 7-8 years old at that point, but that 14-2 season, AFC Championship, and I was in it from there. So yeah, I love Brunell, Baselli, and Fred Taylor, and McCardell, and Donovan Darius. Like, yeah, I was in it, and I don't know why, but I guess at some point you just have to. I feel like everyone's like a bandwagoner at some point, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I would like to hear the stories that where people jump into something that are like, oh, I like this team that's 1-15. Let's go, let's ride.
This is where it happens. This year we get those bandwagoners.
True. We'll take all the
JD.
Clemson fans. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, JD, how about you? Are you was there a team before the Jaguars that you rooted for?
Yeah, I've got a weird story. I'm born and raised Jersey. Been in Jersey pretty much all my life. So I didn't grow up a Jaguars fan. I grew up a Jets fan. My mom's a Jets fan. My dad's actually a Bears fan, so a little weird there. We're not really, staying. My dad actually grew up in Jersey City too, so it's not like he was like in Chicago or anything. So very weird. But I switched over to the Jaguars. I want to say 2006. I think they were 8-8 that year. Is when they drafted Maurice Jones-Drew. I was a fan since then, and I've been a fan since then. I came in. They were 8-8. And then they made the playoffs, beat the Steelers, and then lost to the Patriots. And then they've been trashed pretty much ever since 2017. So it's been a hard road. I wasn't there for the good times, but hoping there are good times in the future,
How about you, Jesse? What's your history with the team like?
Yeah, so same kind of boat. Born and raised in Tampa Bay, but moved up here for college in 2001. And that's when I kind of laid my ground with Jaguars. I worked with them actually for a few years with ticket sales, and then realized, hey, what the hell am I doing working during these games? And became a season ticket holder shortly after that, and I've been a season ticket holder for 15 plus years. I stopped last 2 years because I have 2 little sons, so I had to kind of put a pause on it for now. So this year we're coming back with the season tickets. So our whole family's pretty deeply rooted. My wife and her whole family have been since day one, kind of, they're on the wall, season ticket holder since day one kind of thing. So it's in our family. You can see, the background over here. It's everywhere. There's not a day that I don't have a piece of Jaguar clothing on, I feel sometimes. So, it's in my blood. Yeah.
Love it. Love the background. And JD, I want to go back to you because, 2020 didn't exactly go the way, a Jaguars fan would want it to. I mean, 1-15, but there was a time there where it looked like you might have a bad season and not end up with that number 1 overall pick. I mean, there's certainly, as much as a 1-15 season could, there were some good things to take away from it, right?
Yeah, there were some good things to take away. I think James Robinson, coming into the fold was pretty good. I was actually pretty low on Laviska Shenault coming out of the draft, and I think he impressed me a lot more. So I'm pretty happy with him going forward. I think someone mentioned Colin Johnson too. He was a rookie I really liked. Coming out of Texas, I believe. I liked him a lot. Happy to have him there. So there are some bright spots for sure. I think the biggest disappointment, though, to be fair, was Minshew. I think regressing a lot. Like, he had a really good season 2019, and then 2020 season he just didn't have the magic he once had. So there were some bright spots, in there. And I do remember, I don't know if we're talking about like the moments yet. Should I mention my moment that was like my big thing for this season? Yeah, dude. The one thing I remember, because, as a Jaguars fan, it gets tough to watch at the end of the season. So I feel like the beginning of the season is the big part where we talk about stuff. And I remember that Andrew Wigard interception against the Colts in our only win in the season. That was a big moment for me. That was the defining moment of the season. Won the first game, and then it was trash after that. But I remember that very, very clearly. So that's my moment.
And that was game 1, right? I mean, that's it kind of came out of the gates and you're like, whoa, is this a different team than we thought they were going to be? Gabe, what was it like as a Jaguars fan in 2020?
Yeah, I feel like that was just to like keep us on board, like, look, we could, if we wanted to, we could, but nah, we gonna tank for y'all. We know the QB class coming up is nice. Okay. And I don't think that Jaguars fans necessarily pictured it being the number one overall. I don't know what happened with the Jets in whatever week that was, 12, 13 ish, where it was like, okay, wait a second, there's an actual shot for the 101. And that's a whole other conversation between whether it's Lawrence or Fields, because I think that was kind of the debate. And maybe Jets have Fields over Lawrence, and that didn't matter anyway. But I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier, like I'm kind of conditioned to this. Like it's all good. So when something happens good to the Jaguars, I'm ready to ride out till the end with them and just kind of kick it back. That's what's honestly nice about being a fan like this. Like I have friends that are like Packers fans. I'm like, so what would you rather have? Would you rather have a team that goes to the playoffs every single year and loses, comes up short every single year, that close, or just like get obliterated and then have like one season every 10 or 15 that you can root for, like, and even if they don't make it, it's like, oh, that was a good ride. So it was still fun and plenty of bright spots. Jesse, I don't know where we established Jesse 1, Jesse 2, but James Robinson, absolutely great to watch, great story, undrafted free agent and everything. And with Minshew, though, I'd even argue that they didn't want to like commit to that. They didn't really want to go forward with that project or letting it ride as far as it could have gone. Just recognizing the state of the league and the QB class coming up, I think they wanted to be within those top few picks to make sure and secure something, because the 6th round QB isn't always going to pan out the way that we want it to.
Yeah.
Tom. So I'm cool with it, but I would have loved to have seen Minshew magic again. Shuval, as we say on the open bar. I think J Mike actually legitimately coined that. Okay, so okay, anyone in Jacksonville? I don't know if y'all heard that one already with Shuval, but that's open bar, baby. Trademark it. That's what I should have worn tonight. What am I doing? I got a shirt downstairs. now it's like we threw Minshew to the side. And
yeah, I've got two shirts with this big old piece on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you mentioned that. Like the good thing about being a Jaguars fan, if you're not going to be good, you're in Jacksonville, you're in Florida. Like, do you know how miserable? You mentioned Green Bay. Do you know how miserable it would be to have 7 straight losing years in Wisconsin?
Yeah, different.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
That would be terrible.
Yeah,
Jeff,
I'm in a tank top for the games in the sun. It's fantastic. Right. I could take a loss out there. So it's all right.
Mm-hmm. True.
Take it a little easier than in the snow, freezing my butt off,
True. I do want to say, too, I do love Minshew, too, as well. Like, I'm not trying to shit him as much, too. I was Minshew for Halloween. He's a great dude. Love him. But, yeah, wasn't that good this year.
That must have been so popular, right? Well, not where you are, I guess.
Well, maybe not in Jersey, but yeah. It was a good time, though.
Well, because we needed, at that moment, we needed anything. We've come off 2 terrible seasons. Minshew was supposed to be this light that he produced. He had the gimmick. He was on TV. He was doing the commercials, the little, few-minute clips on ESPN. It was awesome with him. So I was same thing. I was one of his biggest thumpers, heartthrobs. I wrote big articles on him. I was he was the next big thing for me. So it hurt to see it, but anyone can find excuses for a losing team, but there were a lot for this team, I think, this past year. And for me, fortunately, the most memorable moment, and I have exact date, it was week 15 when the Jets beat the Rams. Is the week that was my most memorable moment for this season, because that is when I actually cheered for the Jets for the first time in my life. And then again, the next week when you guys Cleveland and became the hottest team in the NFL, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe we're about to get this first pick here. And my mother-in-law, she is always a believer, never likes to lose. And I'm trying to explain to her, we have to lose these games. Like, I'm here for the Jaguars to lose, and it's not like me to do something like that. And she's yelling and getting on me for it. I'm like, no, we have to lose. And then finally at the end of the season, we got to actually cheer that we could win that game, but let's just go ahead and just let the Colts win. Just let it win. Let's just get the first pick and move on. So, it was a disappointing season for sure. But like you said, finding James Robinson, a few other highlights. We've got a lot of cap space. We've got some things coming out of this. It's good. It's good stuff.
And yeah, like I said up top, I mean, when I started looking through here, I feel like almost everything that I overturn, I'm like, yeah, that could be really good. Like, oh yeah, that could be really good. And it kind of starts up top, right? I mean, a little bit of a controversial pick, I guess you would say, but we'll start just with the head coach and the offense coordinator and things like that. Obviously, you go 1-15. Most people aren't going to make it through the season with that, and it was no different there in Jacksonville. And Gabe, I'll toss this down to you. When you look at Urban Meyer and the hire of Urban Meyer, like he's from Florida, staying there, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a connection, but how did you feel about that hire, and what are you thinking about it now?
I feel like this has been looming for a very long time with Urban Meyer coming to the NFL, and not necessarily the Jaguars, but maybe it was in the scope. It's tough. It's tough because it's interesting to see a college coach like Meyer come. It seems that the transformation of kind of college to NFL has been fun and electrifying, or whatever. Like what they're doing in Carolina, what they did in the past with Philly, I guess, and it was short and sweet, or we'll see with Carolina. It might pan out, but Urban Meyer's a little bit more of a classic kind of coach, and I'm curious to see how that transitions to the NFL. So, it's a popular thing to happen, at least, for like I said about week 1 winning. And then just to keep us there. Don't move us to London quite yet. All right. We got Urban Meyer. All right. We got Urban Meyer. So I think it's good for the fans, good for the city. And I ultimately think it's like a kind of a classic pick for a coach as far as from college to NFL, and we'll see how it goes. But it's difficult to say because it hasn't quite happened yet. And like this, I think, and I think it'll be a good move though.
Well, and you mentioned it had nothing quite like this. And I think one of the things that is different, JD, is that, Urban Meyer does come in having taken a year off. It's not like he's coming directly from the college ranks. And a lot of things that I read said that he spent the year learning the NFL, talking to smart people who know the difference between them, who have tried to make that transition. So it seems like he learned a little bit from the mistakes of people in the past. And I don't know if that's going to mean great things for him, but certainly seem positive to me.
Yeah, the Urban hire is, I'm very conflicted. I love that he wanted 2 different programs. I really like that. That shows, I think, a lot more than just someone who is at a program they built a bit and that's all they do. But I worry, like, God, I'm just gonna call you Man Bun because that's your handle on here. But it is I worry about Chip Kelly. That's really looming large. Like, I don't think there are a lot of great coaches that come here. Like Nick Saban, what came to the NFL, right, with the Dolphins, and he wasn't as good. And obviously built the dynasty at Alabama. I worry about that. I feel like this is going to be either a good hire, a really good hire. It's going to be great, or it's going to be really bad. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of in between. So I'm pretty skeptical. I think I like the GM, who I guess most people are assuming he's going to be like a rubber stamp for Urban Meyer, or I think that's the right terminology, rubber stamp, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm very skeptical. I like the hire. Honestly, I think the best coach is still out there in Doug Peterson. I would have loved him to come to the squad. I think he's a really good coach. But it could have been a lot worse for the Jaguars in this offseason hiring. Like, I didn't want Salah. I'm not a big fan of defensive coordinator coaches, as I think Jags fans will tell you. Haven't had a good history with that, I don't think. I guess Jack Del Rio, but I like Jack Del Rio. But I'm just, meaning more Gus Bradley. But
the Gus bus.
Yeah, the Gus bus was fun, but it too
ruined it.
The Jaguars do have a hard time, or not a hard time, I guess. It seems like Khan holds on to coaches for a little too long too, so I worry about if it goes like all down in flames with Urban, it's going to be really bad. It might leave us in a hole like with Chip Kelly, what he left with Philadelphia. So I worry. I'm a little concerned, but obviously as a Jaguars fan, I think we all share those concerns of like, God, are we going to be bad forever, man? So. Yeah.
And Jesse, talk about Urban Meyer, but also, I mean, he brings in Darrell Bevell, who's got a lot of his own NFL chops as well.
Yeah, so that's where I would, the thing with Meyer is you're right, you're walking a fine line here, but at this point, as a Jags fan, I'm diving headfirst in it. I'm done whether it's this or that, I'm going all in with this choice that they're doing because it's a total rebuild. We have to. But I do like Bevel. He was with Seattle when Wilson was there during that whole era, taking him as a rookie and leading him to a Super Bowl. So I do like that background with him. I'm a little hesitant with the defensive coordinator. Colin, with me, just doesn't have as much as what I thought he would bring in. I do like that he kind of the surrounding coaches that he's putting in. I like to read about them because they seem like a lot of those people are good coaches and well talked up. For example, Charlie Strong, was one of the first coaches that he hired on his staff, who's been with him since Florida. Same thing. It was one of his first coaches that he's hired, and he's been well known for hiring an amazing coaching staff. So I think he's doing that again here in the NFL. So I think he's doing all the steps necessary to set up a program in the NFL. I like the hire. I think that right now we're going for the most glitz and glamour because we're kind of the most shunned on team in the NFL. You won't see us on any primetime games. We're lucky if we get a Thursday night is usually our prime time, and it's usually against a division rival. So for me, I think we're trying to turn that page and get out there as much as we can. Get Meyer, get Lawrence with the first pick. I mean, nothing that 1-2 combo really can't get any better than that at getting your name out there.
Some really big swings right there. And that's, so you mentioned it. I mean, is there anybody here that thinks Lawrence isn't the pick? I mean, they've kind of kept it close to the vest. It's not like they've said for sure it's going to be, which you wouldn't expect them to. Does anybody think it might be somebody different?
If it's not Lawrence, I'm quitting the team. I'm sorry. If it's not Lawrence, they lost a fan. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think they're on that point with a lot of fans, and I don't think Urban Meyer came in there. I think he came in there knowing that the pick was going to be Lawrence. I think that was the decision was already made, and then they hired him. I don't know if it was, hey, Urban, we're going to let you do whatever you want here. I think Khan is a smart man, although more of a businessman and tends to stay to that side. I think he knows what he's doing in the sense that you have to bring in Trevor Lawrence here.
Yeah, it seems like for 3 years that's been the guy that you're supposed to pick. You're supposed to pick Trevor Lawrence, and if you get this pick, that's who it should be. I'm assuming that's exactly who it is. So Gabe, let's talk about Trevor Lawrence then. With an offense with a guy like that and Urban Meyer running the show, you probably are going to have a lot more primetime type games. And it could be a really fun offense. I mean, Urban Meyer talked about wanting to build speed all over the field. So if you look at Trevor Lawrence, what's the ceiling for him? I mean, we're the Dynasty Vipers, so we think about fantasy football, obviously, too. What's the ceiling for him as a fantasy football asset?
Yeah, I mean, you talk a lot about the newer quarterbacks that have the ability to run the ball. And I don't think he's that necessarily, not that level of like Lamar Jackson or whatever, but he has that ability, but he's also 6'6" and is incredibly accurate. So it's like Josh, what's that?
He's not small at all either.
No.
It's Josh Allen, not with the arm strength, but with the ability to run and far more accurate, at least coming out the gate. And for fantasy, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be exciting. I mean, that in dynasty ranks, he's already, argued into the top 5 and easily within the top 10 of QBs. So I'm very excited for that. And I don't think that he's necessarily jumping into a spot that's like, horrible as far as who's going to be receiving the ball. Jacksonville has always kind of had like receivers that have been emerging, either been elite, Allen Robinson, etc., or on the other end of the spectrum, undrafted Keelan Cole, and they just succeed. So, McCardell there is absolutely great for the wide receivers and on the receiving end, and still have Chenault, still have Shark, of course. Colin Johnson, sure, we mentioned that. And I'd imagine that, I don't know when we'll talk about free agency, but maybe something will happen there. How do you not like that?
Right.
As a fantasy option? I mean, it's going to be great. And I think he's in a better spot than Burrow was coming in, just with the line. The line situation isn't perfect, but it's better than the Bengals.
Yeah, better than Bengals.
Jesse, jump in here. Like, I think from a fantasy perspective, real life perspective, it's got to be fun thinking like this is a guy I'm going to root for the next 15 years, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Sorry, I don't know which Jesse it is here, but
Yeah, you go.
Just for all those reasons, not just what we have now, but I know we'll get into it, but like the cap space we have, the ability to bring in whatever weapon we want for this kid. We have a decent O-line. Meyer's already talked about it. We're not, we just we franchise tag Cam. It looks like we're actually going to hold on to Norwell. I know they talked about trading him recently, but it looks like we'll hold on to him. So the O-line's kind of there. We're all right with that. And the ability to go and get more weapons and our offense still be their cheapest part of our team. You're talking about a rookie contract with a quarterback, James Robinson with I think it's $700,000 coming up year. I mean, both wide receivers, Chenault coming off, still on a very cheap contract. Sharks on like a $2 million. Nothing. We're paying nothing for our entire offense, so we can go spend out on that. We can draft with this draft coming up with all these picks. I mean, the sky's the limit pretty much for this kid. So for me, I really look forward to what the Jags are doing in this upcoming draft more than I ever have.
Well, JD, feel free to talk about, Trevor Lawrence there too, but we already kind of started talking about free agency there. So let's jump into that. And keep in mind, this is coming from a Tennessee Titan fan, third and short. Okay. He roots for the Titans. Who do you believe the Jags will sign to eat the next Derrick Henry stiff arm?
Oh man, it's a tough question that I don't want to answer, but it's fine. Trevor Lawrence, I'm going through my rookie stuff. I haven't watched too much film yet on him, but I assume from all the hype, he's been there for a while. He's done really well, all that good stuff. I assume he'll be great. I'm hoping for it at least. And like we've talked about, like Jesse also mentioned too, we've got some good guys to surround him. I worry maybe about the offensive line in the future. Linder's getting a little bit older, Norwell's getting a little bit older too, and the guys we have that are young, Cam, I don't really know what we're going to do with him, and if we even draft an offensive lineman. So I worry about the offensive line possibly in the future, but I love the weapons we have, and I think we'll add a tight end, hopefully in free agency or the draft, and we can talk about that too, and I think wide receiver as well. But I also, we mentioned Joe Burrow too. I think Joe Burrow, to be honest, I haven't watched too much Trevor Lawrence film, so maybe I'll change my mind, but I think Joe Burrow was a better prospect, and I know they say it every year that this guy's the next Andrew Luck. They said it for Burrow, they're saying it for Lawrence. I think Burrow might be the better prospect. That doesn't mean that Lawrence is going to be that bad. Just a little bit of diatribe, just a little bit there. But if I want to talk about free agency, one of the biggest needs that I think the Jaguars have to address in the offense is a tight end. We haven't had a good tight end since Mercedes Lewis, and he was a blocker. We need a good tight end, either Jonnu or Pat Frymuth in the draft or Hunter Henry. I think that's a position of big need. And Jonnu's like 25, 26, Hunter's like 27. We need these guys for the long haul, whoever we're spending money on in free agency. So I'm hoping that's one of the big targets. I mean, there are plenty others, but I'm sure we can talk about that, in the future. But I think tight ends are a really big thing we have to focus on. There are also a lot of good young wide receivers. Juju, Curtis Samuel, Kenny Golladay. These guys are 26, 25 years old. We need to sign some of these guys and have the longevity to go with Trevor Lawrence along with DJ Chark. I think we mentioned Keenan McCardell before. We need to get back to that Keenan McCardell and what's his name? Who's the other guy I'm thinking of?
Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith, obviously.
Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to get back to that level. That's where we need to go. So those are two issues I think I need. We also, obviously, the defense, but we'll talk. I'm sure other guys can cover that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
Gabe. Go ahead, Jet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because as my, I have tight end, wide receiver as one of my top needs at free agency, but actually I have pass rusher if we're going there as one of our big needs in free agency, because I think that's where we're going to find the best bang for our buck, so to speak. In the draft, it's a little bit weaker where we're drafting at in order for in means of the defensive line. So like Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, Leonard Floyd, Shaq Barrett, Leonard Williams. These are all guys that I think that we can take stabs at. Do you think those guys are too old though? They are but we need them just for something. I mean, we're getting run on constantly. We set records this past year. The theme for last year was records, and it wasn't the good kind of records. We were losing like 6 games in a row with 30 plus points. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, we really have to do something with the defensive line, or it's going to be the same thing. And you can put whatever you want on that offensive side. If we're just letting points in at will, we're never going to do anything. So I think we have to get one of them to get a little experience. Remember what happened when we did have Calais Campbell in there in the middle with that leadership role, that experience role, what he did around him. So if we get someone that has that ability to lead with that experience, I think it is a good piece for us. With the tight end, I think Hunter Henry is a great choice for us, and he's not going to cost us really anything. The money that we have, it's just like a little tidbit to get him. Wide receiver wise, me. Dream scenario. If I'm the fan, I know who I want. I want AR-15 back in action. That's me. If I want him, that's who I want. Allen Robinson back. But
God, that'd have been awesome.
I don't think it's gonna happen. He did talk up. He's on Twitter talking up Trevor Lawrence and playing with him and how good of a leader Trevor Lawrence is and this and that. So it's always skeptical. But for me, I think there's other guys out there. I think a Kenny Golladay or a Curtis Samuel who has ties with Urban Meyer. I think that's more of a scenario where we're going to see someone like Curtis Samuel and a Hunter Henry, and then we'll go bigger on the defensive side actually this year. But that's
So trade Gardner Minshew to Chicago for Allen Robinson.
There you go.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go. That works out for both teams, man.
Yeah.
Why not? The old swoop and swap. Come on. Let's do it.
We'll trade you Nick Foles. We'll trade you Gardner Minshew. We'll trade you all our backups. It's fine.
Yeah. Chicago would do it.
True.
Yeah. I mean, you got him with Nick Foles last year. If you could do that with Foles, you can. What can you get for Minshew?
The trade of the century right there. No one knows.
That was the best trade. Yeah. Out of all the trades we've done, that was the best one by far.
Yeah. We got rid of a lot of people, but that one felt the best.
100%.
Gabe, $70 million in cap space. That's a lot. I mean, that's I believe it's them. You guys are the Jets. Are number one right now. That's a lot of cap space, and this is a year where you could see a lot of 1-year deals, 2-year deals, things like that. So you're not necessarily having to, some of these veterans you could bring in and maybe compete pretty quickly, depending on how Khan wants to spend his money. And as a fan of the team, what do you think? I mean, is he going to go out and is he going to spend everything?
I mean, you got to look at all of the moves they made this season, because they really, really just kind of they just kind of cleared everything, whether it was money or players, because they weren't going to re-sign Yannick and give him that mega deal, because that would have cut it huge into the cap. He might even be able to come back at this point.
There's no Tom Coughlin, right?
Calais is gone. He was kind of a big acquisition. And Fournette. Yeah. I mean, they just cleared shop, right? So it just, and even kind of slowly but surely throughout the season, even, or, off season as well. But it's really quite the rebuild, and especially on the defense, it is yikes. I mean, they're all we do is draft defensive ends, right? Edge rushers, Josh Allen, Taven Bryan, whatever, Miles Jack, all those kind of guys in the same realm. But the secondary is brutal. The defense, it's funny. I saw a comment pop up here live, just crazy how they were in the AFC Championship just and it was really the defense that carried that entirely, and it's just different now. It's just different, entirely different. The structure and build of this team. So I would imagine it's going to be heavy defense, whether it's in free agency. I don't know. It's tough to say what helps or hurts you in free agency from a success point on teams, because you see teams like the Giants spend a lot for this high octane defense and just falls through, with Olivier Vernon, whatever, and just doesn't work. So I don't know. I'm curious what the players that they pick, the balance that they do. It might not be a big guy. It might be a collective of something to create some sort of, culture on the defense. Cause it's, like I said, it's a complete rebuild. And I don't know what they're going to do, because it's everywhere on defense that they need it.
I do know one thing real quick. There was a press conference with Trent Baalke, the general manager, just the other day, Wednesday. And he was saying that Khan's ready to spend, I think, and they're going to spend up each year to get close to that cap, whatever they can get to. So they're down to throw some money around this year, I think, more so than the last few years. And you have to remember, 1-15, we can't expect us to all of a sudden go 15-1 in our first year. You have to have, you have to temper these expectations. I think people think, Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence, and then we're going to start getting free agents. And then all of a sudden, we start talking Super Bowl, we're taking pictures, we're there, but we're not there yet. So we have to really, there's pieces we have to build on. So like you said, Gabe, I think it's more of a collective piece here that we're going to get in this free agency, not just one guy that's going to really do it.
And they avoided going to the Jaguars for the longest time. NFLPA was like, don't go there.
Yeah, they put out a report, literally. Like 30% of grievances are filed against the Jaguars. Like, it was insane. It was insane. That was Coughlin. We have to blame it on Coughlin.
Yep, and I think that's going to turn around a little bit. There are a lot of guys out there that I think Shaq Barrett would be fun. Among other, man, that is funny. Yannick, that would be crazy if he came back.
He's definitely cheaper than he was like before we traded him. He's cheaper.
That would be fun.
We can all wear our jerseys again. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a Penn State fan too. I want A-Rod back so bad, dude.
I know. Trust me, I've got so much of his gear.
I don't know if they go. I don't know if they take a wide receiver in free agency. Though, I think Curtis Samuel's a decent. Someone that's big. And there's not much big anymore. Like Galladay is the biggest wide receiver at this point. And it's like T.Y. Hilton, and I think the wide receivers are already learning enough and elevating themselves enough just being on that team as it is. And so I'm comfortable with the wide receivers as they are. Grabbing one or two in the draft is fine. I think the wide receiver draft class, I think they do go defense in that second pick in the first round, but I wouldn't be surprised if something falls to them that they land on something that is special. But tight end, I agree with y'all about Hunter Henry. I honestly think Hunter Henry's like a lock.
Yeah, I hope so. He's also injury prone.
I know. But had no luck, man. No luck. Julius Thomas, Tyler Eifert. It's like they always pick up these tight ends on their second contracts, and it's just bad. Just bad. Yeah. Oh, come on. I'm all right. Hey, let him breathe. Let him breathe a little bit.
Dude, it's been like 3 years. Has he gone on the field ever? Come on. This kid, 4th rounder. We can't keep taking tight ends in the 4th round. Come on. Right.
Josh Oliver's done, dude. He's gone.
He just doesn't see the field,
So I like Freiermuth, though. Yeah, that might be all right.
Yeah, I like Pat.
And that Notre Dame tight end. He's all right, too.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, we could even we have the draft capital to move up. If we wanted to go and grab, say, Waddle or any of those top wide receivers maybe fall down, maybe even Pitts falls down, we can move up.
No,
we have the capital to move up.
Yeah.
Jesse, I'm gonna go to you.
But no way.
JD's got his Jalen Ramsey jersey on there, and thanks to Jalen Ramsey, you've got an extra pick in the first round, right? So 3 picks in the top 33. That's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, there's a lot of pieces that you can build there. Plus, there's an extra second rounder that they're at number 45. A third, 2 4s, 2 5s. I mean, there's a lot of picks, a lot of things that you can do to rebuild this team. Just allowing Urban Meyer to create this team out of, molded around what he wants. What do you expect him to do, and how do you expect him to utilize those picks between offense and defense?
Going with me? Okay, so obviously the first pick we know, or we hope we know, that it's Trevor Lawrence. Then we have the 25th pick in that first round because of the Rams. Unfortunately, that same week that I talked about, week 15, the Jets beat the Rams. Not only was it great because the Jets, we got the first pick, but the Rams lost, giving us a higher pick. It was like, yes, but then the Rams went on a winning streak. I think they won 4, next 4 to win out or whatever it was to keep going. So unfortunately, we get the 25th. I was looking at a little article the other day before the show, and it showed 100 different beat writers and things from all over and their choice for this 25th pick. And it was all over the place. For me, I think it's going to fall somewhere. The safe pick would be with an offensive tackle, someone like Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan, Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. But I want what most of the people picked, and that's the defensive tackle from Alabama, Christian Barmore. So I think for us to get one of those big, nasty guys, and in the NFL, you just can't find people that are that size in the world, really, and finding a guy that can to do this in the NFL is extremely hard to find. He's something like 6'6", like 350. I mean, 3'6". He's huge. He's a massive man. So I think we solidify that defensive line. Meyer talked about it a ton in a lot of his conferences, how important that defensive line is in order to win a championship. And he loves Josh Allen and what he brings to the table. And I think he's going to kind of put impact players around him to make him look a little better. Then we get, of course, that second round pick, that 33rd pick. Every pick, we get the top pick in that round. So the top pick in the second round is generally one of those picks that a lot of people are going for. Sometimes it gets traded for. It's been traded twice in the last 5 years. I think it is that 33rd pick. For me, I would love to see Kadarius Toney. I'm a Florida Gator guy. We're here in Jacksonville. It makes sense, the correlation for it. He's talking about speed. I think Kadarius is one of those guys that can break away speed on offense. So for me, I think we attack the defensive side first and then come back on offense. And I think it kind of just goes back and forth from there. Like we said, there's a lot of holes on defense that we have to fill. And I don't think we go heavy to one side or the other. I think we keep it well balanced.
Gabe, you didn't look excited about the Kadarius Toney pick.
He's pretty polarizing on Twitter. I don't necessarily hate it. I'm not sure if I've seen enough yet. But he seems like the Terry McLaurin of this draft class. If people are gonna pick their guy that's going to be surprise people or whatever. And he probably will end up being a first round draft pick. I would think, just that draft capital and whatnot tied to him. And would they take him that early though? What are they, 21?
Well, no, they get 20. They have him at 25th pick.
25th. Okay.
Yeah. He's falling kind of close to that. And if he goes,
that's close.
We can even get him with the 33rd, maybe, that first pick. That's the beauty of the first pick in the second. There's going to be 5 to 10 guys that are all like, wow, I can't believe these guys fell to us here. Yep. And that's where we really, really have to capitalize is those first picks in each round. The ones that fall to us is where we have to capitalize, I feel. Because it's easy. First pick, obviously, it's easy. Anybody can make the first pick. 25th pick, it's kind of, it's who's going to fall to you. But I think they have to capitalize on this 33rd pick, the first pick in the third round, first pick in the fourth round, all those.
JD, who do you have your eyes on there?
Okay, so I have a few things to say. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So a few things about even before the draft. I think there's actually a little bit of free agency stuff. I think one thing that's really important that I didn't get to mention, apologies for this, but I think we need to re-sign Sidney Jones. It's like one of the most prioritizing things, or one of the big priorities I think we have in the offseason. He played really well last year as a cornerback. I'm really excited. Hopefully they bring him back. I also want to say, I think there's actually a kind of semi-quick fix to the Jaguars' defensive woes. I think that's reforming the defense into a 3-4. I think we have 2 edge rushers who are Josh Allen and whatever the guy we drafted out of LSU. I'm totally like his name is terrible. Yeah. Oh no. I'm sorry. The end with the guy in the first round that we take. Yeah, Chase on. They both played outside linebacker in 3-4 systems, right? They were the guys who were blitzing off the edge. We have a guy in Devon Hamilton who can play nose tackle. He's a big dude. He's a huge guy. Yeah. If we were to bring back, or I think we still have Taven on the roster, not 100% sure, but he'd be a fine 3. Oh, yeah, he'd be a fine 3-4 end. Like I know he's had troubles in the past, and even he could be a rotational guy, but he's
big man. Yeah, he's perfect. For that.
He's a really good 3-4 guy. I think there's a really easy way. We got Miles Jack and Schobert in the middle as the 2 middle linebacker. S guys in the 3-4. I think there's a really easy, simple way to make this defense a lot better than it was last year. Then got rid of Todd Welsh. Fuck that guy. Sorry, I shouldn't curse. But that guy sucks. I don't like him. Happy's off the squad. But I think if we perform to a 3-4 defense, we actually fit the defense a lot more than even just drafting guys. So I just wanted to say those 2 things before we get into the draft stuff. I don't know if you guys agree.
It does seem like, the talks out of Jacksonville, it seems like we are going to transition to a 3-4 with Colin. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, like you said, it can be an easy fix because we have pieces that fit better to a 3-4 than what we are doing now. So
I think that'll happen. I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So for the draft, sorry, I'm getting into it. Trevor Lawrence won. I kind of like Zach a little bit, but like not as the first overall pick when Trevor Lawrence is there. I don't want that to happen. But 25, I like Barrymore a lot. With wide receiver slides, sure, maybe we could take one. I think we'll be addressing that free agency. I think there are a lot of guys who are 25, 26 that we should grab, like Juju, Galladay, Curtis Samuel, guys like that. But if there are guys who fall, that's fine. Like we saw also, we have the first pick of the second round. We saw guys fall out of the first round who had first round grades on T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, wide receivers who are really good and I think will have very good careers. They went in the second round, early second round, obviously, very early second round, but I think there'll be good guys there. I like Barrymore 25. I think I really like Darashaw if he falls there. I would be a big fan of him if we got him on the offensive line. I think we need to replenish a little bit there. So I'm hoping it's someone like that. And I've seen, Pat Fryermuth go 45 to us, and I would love that. That sounds great. I'd be very happy about that. Even if we do sign a guy like Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith in the offseason, I think it's more than acceptable to sign to get a tight end at that spot if it's one of the top 3 guys. Pitts obviously won't go that far, but Fryermuth or the guy from Notre Dame, I believe, is the other guy. But that's what I'm looking at. I really want Barrymore, man. I'm really feeling that guy. I would love him on the team. I think he's a bruiser. He's great. He really would fit, hopefully, a new, hard-nosed culture like the Jaguars defense has been for a long time. Going back to the Stroud and Henderson memes.
So
And Fryermuth is a great blocker. And Jesse, you mentioned Tony. I was actually surprised how physical he was when I watched him. He actually is a pretty good blocker too. Where's that Florida jersey that Urban Meyer likes so much and reminds me of a very, very poor man's Percy Harvin, maybe a little bit.
Yes, almost identical to it.
Yeah. So
he's going to be one of those offensive weapons, is what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
Don't we already have Chenault though? Like, do we need another one?
It's true. Yeah, very similar.
Another guy you have, and we talked about Darrell Bevell. He at one point was considered the king of establishing the run when he was there in Seattle, right? So, Gabe, a lot of talk this week about James Robinson, some comments about adding to the RB room. Did Twitter make a little – Twitter would never do this, but in this one case, did Twitter make too much of those comments?
Don't listen to Twitter, first of all. This show's live on Twitter, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So don't listen to this. But I think you have to add a running back. I mean, this is an outlier to the max. We have to understand that undrafted period is difficult to get to this level. Running in fantasy, running back 7 range dependence on where your scoring is, that's insane to have that type of season in your first year. So he's typical workhorse, yes, like James Robinson, but do I think they're going to completely commit to him? No. I wouldn't be surprised if they do even something in free agency, or even just a pass catching back in the 3rd or 4th round, even Gainwell might even happen, Kenny Gainwell. In 3rd or 4th round, and or even James White could be kind of fun. But something, because they got money to spend, they're gonna spend it. Yes, but I do think that from if we're talking a fantasy perspective, I think something's coming in. I think that this was just a perfect culmination for him this year to be that dude, because it's who else, and just flexed on fools and got the volume and did what he needed to do, and he's earned it now at this point, obviously. But I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in something to pair with him. So
yeah, Jesse, I'm going to toss Jesse 1 up here up top of me. I'll toss it over to you. James Robinson, to me, I didn't see very many flaws in his game. Certainly seems like the kind of guy that you can rely on as your running back. I understand them wanting to make sure they've got somebody besides, you don't even have Chris Thompson now, or Dari Agumbawale. He's gone too. So yeah, Reichwell Armstead probably isn't the guy you want backing him up. But are they looking for a backup, or are they looking for somebody that can come in and take touches away?
I think honestly that they're going to get somebody in the draft. I don't know if they're going to address it in free agency, is my opinion. But like you said, Gabe, he was kind of thrust into that role last year. It was COVID that took out Armstead right away. And I don't know if Armstead, last time I checked, I thought he was retired, done from COVID, retired.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, it was real bad.
I don't know if he's even on the roster. We might own the rights to him, but I think he's gone. So like you said, Chris Thompson's gone. There's nobody left, and he had to run. He didn't get hurt. He got the volume, but who else would we have given it to? Dare? It's no. So he was thrust into a good opportunity, but he thrived in it, and they never looked back. They talked about it right in the beginning of the preseason and everything with him in camp. They loved him. They loved everything. They loved his vision. They said it 1,000 times on the radio. His vision, his vision, his vision. And it proved it throughout the entire season. His vision is what carried him and got those extra yards. So I like him. But like you said, I think you have to have a compliment. The James White was kind of – I love that comparison. We need somebody like that. And I think there are a lot of running backs that you can get. And since we have so many picks, why not go get one of those guys? So – I like addressing it in the second round and see. I don't know if they're going to take that many opportunities away, but if you're talking about a guy to complement him, that most likely tells me that that's going to take away some of his receptions. So for me, depending on what kind of game you play, if it's a full point per reception, then yeah, it might take some touches away from him.
Yeah. So James White, I've already decided James White is going to Tampa Bay and rejoining Tom Brady. So somebody like James White.
Get him out. All right, we'll get him out of our heads. I'm a huge fan of James Robinson. I don't want to get anyone off the point, but we have to have depth. We have to have someone to back him up. We can't. You can't be wishing and hoping in one hand and shit in the other, and if one's going to fill it faster. So you have to have that insurance policy no matter what it is.
Yeah. I have to talk about James Robinson. I'm sorry if we're moving on, but I need to talk about this because we had Jay Gruden as our offensive coordinator last year, who was the coach of the Washington Redskins, and he had Chris Thompson and. Robinson had 60 targets last year. Like, this guy beat out Thompson for a lot of these receptions. So I feel like he was a dominant figure. Even when Thompson was healthy for most of the year. So I feel like this must mean something a little bit. I think I totally agree with you guys. We need to bring in some kind of guy to back up. We can't just focus completely on him and have like no one behind Robinson to fill that void. I don't think we'll do it in free agency because the big name guys like Jones and Chris Carson are similar guys to Robinson. We don't need another bruiser. We need a guy like you're talking about, a pass catcher, someone in the backfield who can be, like an Austin Eckler type of role thing. Not obviously as good, but I think that's really important. And I love James Robinson. I'm a huge fan. That guy, like we talked about, he did something pretty unprecedented for an undrafted, free agent rookie.
Yeah.
And that guy, especially early in the season, I think later in the season, the team kind of checks out. Things aren't as good. It's pretty bad. So his end of season film isn't that good. But at the beginning of the year, that guy bounces off tacklers like a maniac. He bounces off tacklers. It's crazy. Like if you look at, I was actually checking this last night. If you look at the amount of broken tackles per rush, he beats out Derrick Henry. Like this guy bounces off tacklers a lot. And I love that. I'm a big fan of that. It reminds me.
1,400 all-purpose yards, man. He's
nothing to see right there.
He only played in 14 games. He did have 240 touches, which was good for I think 7th most attempts. 240 attempts. So it was a lot of attempts for sure. But yeah, I mean he's pretty good. The vision, like you talked about, was very good too. He's really good break tackle. His blocking was pretty good too, which is important. If he's going to be a 3-down back, if we're talking about fantasy a little bit too, if he's going to be a 3-down back, he needs to be able to block, and he can block, serviceably enough. So I like that a lot. I'm a big James Robinson fan. So
let's get that Derrick Henry guy back in here. Come on, where we at for the James Robinson talk, huh?
Yeah. James Robinson's the best running back in the division, is what I heard.
Yeah.
Hey man, there's an easy way to take down Derrick Henry. You stop him before he gets up. You tackle his legs. That guy can't be. He's not good. I'm just kidding.
There's a new crown. Okay.
Yeah. Gabe, we're like 50 minutes in the show, and a pretty prominent name in fantasy circles I don't think has even been brought up is DJ Chark. We talked a little bit about Chenault, but like DJ Chark seems like the kind of guy with his speed, with things like that he could fit in with Urban Meyer and what he wants to do pretty well. Like, do you think DJ Chark can kind of be a target hog for this team next year?
And I kind of feel a vibe from my my Jessies over here. All right. I love y'all being Jaguars fans, but I already feel a vibe that y'all don't really trust Chark as your wide receiver one, that you kind of want something in free agency, want your Galladay, A-Rob to somehow get out of his franchise tag and come back to Jacksonville. I think Chark could be our number one guy, honestly. And we already drafted Chenault. Like, I really think we could have an interesting 1A, 1B sort of scenario between those two. And they're certainly young in that fact, but they've been producing, and that, like, you can't argue those facts, I guess. And there's depth to it as well between Johnson and Conley. I don't know if Conley's hit
He's a
free
free
agent
agent now.
Is he a free agent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shout out to Chris Conley.
We still got Didi.
Still got DD, yeah, coming back from injury. See, there's always a guy. I don't know where Keelan Cole's going to be.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
No, so they'll bring people to complement or just guys that are going to work. But on it, I'm cool with Shark being the wide receiver one. And I would be at this point in free agency. I don't know if there is a guy that could, like, I would take Shark over. Probably Galladay is close, but I would probably take Shark over all of the other wide receivers in free agency.
Galladay's surprisingly old. Like, he's actually like, what is he, 28 or something like that? So I mean, Shark has some youth to him,
right?
It does seem like that would be between Shark, Laviska Shenault, and then even like Colin Johnson, who showed flashes. There was a lot of talk about him in training camp as being somebody that, was flashing and showing a lot of great signs. With James Robinson, add a Pat Freiermuth or somebody like that. Like, it almost feels like you put Trevor Lawrence in charge and Urban Meyer behind the wheel. This could be exciting offense all of a sudden. Jesse, would you be completely opposed to just running it out like that and seeing what happens?
I'm not. I think you found my deep, dark secret, Gabe. My wide receiver one love. But yes, I love Chark. It's hard to hate on your team. It's not that I'm hating on him. He's had a lot of injuries, and it's just been random stuff that's just slowed him down every time. Every time that I put in all my faith and all my hope in him is when those are the games that he's gotten hurt. So I've had a rough slate with him, and especially in terms of DFS, he's let me down in so many times. So I think I just have a bad taste in my mouth from last year. But you're right. He is amazing. He can stretch the field. He was the fastest in his combine time for wide receivers in his class. So, I mean, he does possess the speed. I love Laviska, but again, he's one of those guys that could be, every time he gets hit hard, he gets up, he's kind of holding his arm or holding his leg and limping off. So, it worries me. One of those guys goes down, then the game plan is all of a sudden Colin Johnson and Laviska, or Chark and it's just, for me, I think I'm a little bit happier if we go spend a little bit of money and go get one of those guys. I'm okay even with getting Curtis Samuel. I like what he possesses as a receiver, and I like the abilities he has as a running back out of the backfield, sweeps. I mean, he gives you those options and gives you those weapons that we're looking for. I think we're trying to equip Trevor Lawrence with everything he could possibly have to attack the NFL, and you have to have these little gadgets and gizmos and gadgets and things to do that. And I think that's what also makes Urban Meyer's mind works the best. So, I love our wide receiver group. What worries me, and you brought it up earlier, is Keenan McCardell is now with the Vikings their wide receiver coach. So, for me, I own a lot of Justin Jefferson, so I'm happy about that. But as a Jaguars fan, it was it hurt my heart, when he left. So I'm not saying that wide receivers are going to take all of a sudden a downward spiral here, but it does worry me a little bit. So I'd like to see a little bit of an experience come in so that they can kind of help with that Keenan McCardell void that's now getting left with these young guys that were just working with them. So they can be number ones. They can be, but I want to see some experience behind them to help them out to get there.
I had Tyler Gunther on the Viking show, and he was talking about Keenan McCardell, and we drew the link between. They're definitely going to sign Keelan Cole. That's where he's going to go. That was his big
and Conley.
Cole's a fine depth piece. He's a fine depth piece for sure.
Yeah,
great for us.
Yeah, he's shown some flashes. Seems like that. He's been pretty good. So, JD, I'll give you the last word. Like anything on Chark and this has been a great show.
Yeah. I mean, I do really like Chark. I think he can be our number one receiver. That's cool. But like other Jesse one talked about, I think we need to equip Lawrence with as much as we can. I think I'm not comfortable with just Chark and Laviska as our top two receivers. I like Laviska. Like I said, I was kind of low in the draft process. I'm not sure if he's ready to be the 1A to the 1 or the 1B to the 1A of Chark. And I think there's a guy, I think Curtis Samuel is highly undervalued in the NFL right now, and I think in fantasy especially too. He's a really good receiver. People thought he would have a huge breakout, but he was fine last year with Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback, and I don't think Bridgewater is going to be a starter in the NFL next year even. So I really think we could bring in someone like that. I think that's important to have a 1A, 1B, go back to the McCardell, go back to the Jimmy Smith. I would love to have that. And I think if we have those top 3 guys, it's great. And then we have depth pieces like Colin Johnson. I still like DD a little bit. If we bring in someone else, if we resign Conley, he was okay. I mean, he's a fine 5 receiver. I'll take that for what it is, or 4 receiver. I'll take that for what it is. But yeah, I think there are like 4 young. Galladay's 27. Juju's 25. I think Curtis is 25. There's another guy who's out there that I like too, but there are some young guy receivers that, and like we talked about spending the offseason. I'm sorry?
Corey Davis?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dude, I'm a huge Corey Davis fan. He is really good, and I know he's the Titans. I hate the Titans, obviously, but he's pretty good. And he's a possession receiver, which I think Chargers actually has really, really good hands. He's another good possession receiver that can also stretch the field. He's got a lot of great talents. But I think bringing in a 1B would be great, or even, maybe if Curtis steps it up and we sign him, he'd be a 1A. I don't know. I'm happy to have both of that. We have enough cap space. As long as we're building for the future, that's what matters to me.
This was an awesome show. What a great way to finish this Spotlight series with the Jaguars. So many positive things to look forward to. I actually I'm going to be checking for updates on what they do the entire offseason, just because they have so much room. An owner that wants to go spend money and lots of draft capital, just so many cool things.
Texas and Florida. Come on, people. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's one last time. I just want to go back around. Gabe, how can everybody support what you're doing? Is the open bar staying open? Like you guys staying open all off season?
Look, if you stay open, you ain't got to get open. So if you can't tell, yes, yes, it's my. we gotta have an all Jag show, because randomly J Mike didn't know, we didn't know that we were Jaguars fans going into being co-hosts together. It just so happened. So we'll have to have you two on. We'll grab a couple too. Cal, you can come on, be a Jaguars fan. We'll take you in. Whatever. Yeah, why not? No,
we're now. All good.
Yeah, come on, Cal. Hey, I bandwagoned. Why don't you? Hey, Cal. Wait.
Tony Baselli's name. That's I'm just saying.
I like that. That was good. Best tackle in the game. Come on.
Yeah.
Cal though, what's
Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I'm taking over the show real quick, Cal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Open bar style. What was your team? Did you jump in and give your piece? What was it?
Yeah, I'm a Saints fan. I live in New Orleans. Love the team. So you guys mentioned a couple of names there. I'm a big LSU guy. So loved watching Leonard Fournette there, although it didn't go quite as well as I know you guys were hoping for. Yeah.
Could use a 4th pick on someone better.
Hey, Terrace Marshall might be that guy that they take in the 2nd or 3rd round there.
I like that.
Could be fun.
Yep. So yeah, a lot of interesting things with the Saints. We're in the opposite. So all of the cap space you have, we have the negative version of that.
Negative.
Yeah. They about to hold tryouts like Philly did for wide receiver.
But the good thing
Mark Wahlberg's about to be a wide receiver.
The good thing is we also are losing a Hall of Fame quarterback, and we don't have very many draft picks. So look, the exact opposite of what you guys.
Hey, well, Trey Hendrickson might be a Jaguar, or Henderson, whatever that guy's name is, the defensive end, right? He might be a Jaguar. He was an All-Pro though last year. He's pretty under the radar. He might be a Jaguar. We'll see.
He's 13.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, he was very good.
Mm-hmm. Minneapolis Miracle guy.
They tagged him, right?
Quick story.
Did they tag him?
Yeah, they tagged him, right? Am I wrong?
Williams? Yeah.
Yeah, tagged him, right? Yeah.
So the Minneapolis Miracle, I have a 12-year-old. He was just getting into when you start being a fan and watching football, as a kid, you don't necessarily attach yourself to a team, and he wasn't quite ready to attach himself yet. He was even kind of he loved Michael Vick, and I was like, no, he cannot be a Falcon fan. Oh my God, he cannot be a Falcon fan. So I got him into the Saints, and he's watching it. He's so excited watching the game. And I think in that moment, the Saints look like this is going to be a victory. We're going to go to Philly. Philly didn't have their quarterback. It looked like, they weren't as good. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl, so that wasn't a very good thought. But his fandom started being born in that moment. And then the Minneapolis Miracle happened. And that's the moment when I knew he was going to be a fan for life, because it hurt so bad that the next morning he goes, "Dad, it still hurts. I can't go watch the replay."
Hey, man, that was the year the Jaguars were good, so we feel your pain, man. We feel a lot of pain that year, so, we're in the same boat there at least.
That's the moment he became a real, and that's, so many of the fans that we've talked to over the course of the series, there's those moments like that really root in that pain. That's a part of it. That's a huge part of it right there. Yeah. You suffer together.
Yeah.
You celebrate together.
Yeah. Well,
imagine being a Packers fan, just getting used to it.
I can't even imagine.
Getting used to all those wins, man. That was
yeah.
That 2017 season, man, was a roller coaster of emotions. I've only cried twice in my life in sports events, and that was one of them when they lost to the Patriots. So it's.
I'll never forget, I had a raging party. I brought everybody over. We've never cheered so much and then cried so much. It was terrible.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It was fun.
Bacon Game Fantasy Sports. We're the kind of work that you're doing over the off season. What can we do to support you?
Yeah, man. Hit me up on Twitter. I post some pretty. Oh my god, I'm slurring my words. I might be a little tipsy. I post some pretty cringe stuff on my Twitter, but I think I'm a fun time. I like to talk sports all the time. If you ever want to talk to me about anything, I'm always down to debate. You can find me at BGF Sports. I'm doing work with the Lateral now too, which is really fun. I have my own podcast stuff, so you can check me out. All that stuff. You'll see it. It's a good time.
Very cool. Jesse, I don't even think I was following you going into this, and somebody tagged you, and I was like, oh, really cool. It was really good to meet you. And really good to hear your insight here today. What are you working on over this off season that the people here, the Jaguars fans or fantasy community, can follow along with you?
Yeah, I was glad that Barry tagged me on that one to get on some of this action. But I'm with the Hammercast Network at hammercast.com. Like I said, if you want anything sports, they've got it. But for me, this is kind of my off season right now. I strictly am more of a DFS football, the daily fantasy, DraftKings, that thing. That's where you're going to find me. I'll write all kinds of articles throughout the year as we get closer to the season, and I'll have a podcast every week. And we're hoping to go to 2 podcasts this week, or 2 podcasts a week this year. So I'm looking forward to big things.
Well, very cool. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us. So for all these guys, the Dynasty Vipers, make sure you're following me at Calvin and Hobby. Follow the YouTube channel. We have a lot of really cool things going on right now. Matt has just been killing it. We've had timeless type videos that you can go watch. We don't talk very much football. We talk about the history of fantasy football with some really big names, Adam Rank and Bob Harris, and we got Sigmund Bloom on tomorrow. That's a lot of fun. Paul Charchian. We're gonna have Mike Wright, FF Hitman. We got a lot of great guys that we've just been interviewing, talking about just kind of coming up and back before internet, and they were doing fantasy and trying to make money in the fantasy game way back then. And so really been a fun time picking their brain, hearing about that. So make sure you're subscribed to that. And after we get past the draft, I'm going to be doing these all over again. I had so much fun doing this. We're going to talk about what these teams did and review it before we get into the season. So I appreciate you guys joining us. So for Matt, the Dynasty Vipers, make sure you're following along with all these guys in the Dynasty Vipers. We will see you guys on the next show.